Hello and welcome to the AOSC Super Series live on Apex Racing TV and live on the iRacing Esports Network. My name is Sam Fitzpatrick. Alongside me is Daniel Leet and Matthew Norris. Scott Newton operating the cameras tonight. And we have got this round 13 of the championship coming up for you. Two races tonight, one 50 kilometers in length, the other 80 kilometers in length. And we're running two different configurations of this famous Road Atlanta circuit. Yes, the circuit that you are seeing that outline for, that is Road Atlanta, but not the one you usually see. It is the short layout. We cut out about a third of the circuit, and instead we will run this alternative layout, and it should be very different. This is the club layout, and then later on we will run the full layout for the second race. I've run this format one time before at Alton Park. It was great fun. Hopefully this is going to be the same. Daniel, it's something different for the drivers tonight. I think with that Alton Park one, it was a good format considering what Alton Park is like. It's a tricky to overtake circuit, so having a couple of starts was a good idea just to mix it up, keep it a little bit in question. Otherwise, I imagine it could have got a bit stale. I think today overtake is going to be a lot more possible. It's going to be quite a frantic round of the championship, I imagine, around a circuit that a lot of these drivers really like.
Yeah, good evening, Sam, and everyone tuning in. Great to have you back. It's really interesting to see the layout choice that we're using. So obviously much shorter in configuration. It's going to be weird seeing the guys turning right at the bottom of the hill of the S's as opposed to left to the traditional circuit. So that in itself is going to be quite interesting, especially through this first lap. But blistering times out there as always. And I think watching the way the track is as congested as it is tonight, it's going to be really interesting to see where these guys pick their moves and opportunities. And right now, as we watch them complete the last part of their qualifying, it's going to be all key to try and get as far up the grid as possible and set yourself up for a good race one.
Definitely, and of course, big thanks to all the sponsors for the championship who make this series as professional as it is. Akita, height, safety and rigging equipment for sale and hire. Jinx shifters, obviously made premium shifters, and also brake bars and ARB adjusters as well for sim racing. Race Circuit Arts Australia, Aussie made high quality CNC race circuits. 6th Gear Imagery, doing sim racing digital imagery, and Wolf Graphics, Aussie made stickers. And also West End Master 2 Easy Finance and Paramatter Isuzu Ute, all Sydney car dealers led by Jamie McKnight. Big thanks to all of them. We may we may talk about them a little bit more later on as well. But thanks for their continued support of this series. Like Daniel was saying, we're into the final few moments of this qualifying session. Just got a couple more minutes to go. That is the championship standings for you. James Scott leading the way. Jordan Ross now moves up into second place. That has been so competitive. Shepard was in second place for a while, then it was Briggs, and now Ross up there for Synergy Sim Racing after very nearly taking the race win actually last time out. And then also Dyson there in 5th place, Myers, Cine, Johnston, Stokes and Borg rounding out the top 10. How much do you think the drivers will be caring about this second place in the championship? We know that James Scott is going to win the title. He's pretty much mathematically got it sewn up now. But how much will that matter to the drivers in second place? Because I think sometimes you're almost looking forward to the next season. You're not really too concerned about this season. Do you think the fact that James Scott has dominated so much that there's a bit more pride in the fact that you can finish kind of best of the rest for this championship?
Yeah, I think every driver looks towards, next season and I can do a bit better going forward. We've got to remember that these cars are still relatively young in their lifespan, so people are still finding all the secrets and tips and tricks and how to make them work. But I mean, if you can finish second in what is arguably one of the second biggest championship on iRacing in terms of VO2 cars, you're doing a fantastic job. So if you're running second, you're still doing a phenomenal job to be where you are and in that elite class of driver.
Yeah, right now, James Scott, as he has become accustomed, he is on pole position, a 10th clear of Corey Shepard. Good qualifying actually for Shepard. He doesn't usually qualify on the front row of the grid. I think he has done in the past, but I think in more recent rounds he's kind of been on the 3rd or 4th row of the grid. So that's positive signs for him. Johnston in third. There's Briggs, Ross, Dyson, Freer, Talianchis doing well in 8th. And then Bowden and Smart also doing quite well in 9th and 10th. As we're nearly at the end of the qualifying session, the drivers are allowed to complete the lap that they start, even when the checker flag comes out. So the checker flag is out, and they can't start any more laps, but they can finish that. That's a big old wiggle for McAvoy as he pulls off a sensational move going into the pit lane on the grass and everything. Lovely stuff. We won't need any pit stops, which I think some of the drivers would be quite pleased about, because this is one of the most tricky pit entries in all of iRacing, particularly in these cars. Jimmy Stovall approaching the line. That's a very quick way of getting there. Probably not the fastest. He did pick up a 1x. He remains in 15th place. Although Adam Briggs is time so far. Good second sector, personal best second sector, and a pretty good sector 1 as well. This could be good enough for the front row of the grid for Briggs if he can convert this third sector. And he crosses the line now. It's an improvement, but it's still a little bit short in 4th position. And it was a personal best. Just third sector, not a personal best, but second sector was. And because it's such a short lap, the gaps between the drivers is very small. Can Scott go even faster? No personal best on this lap so far. And I think just ran a little bit wide out of desperation there. But he's still on pole position once again here at Road Atlanta. Can we expect too many incidents on this first lap, Daniel? Is it a potential for a couple of collisions?
Yeah, I think there's always a pretty high risk opportunity that we're going to see some of those contacts, especially up at the top of the hill through 2 and 3. It's a blind lead up into that corner. And as we saw at the conclusion of qualifying, there are a lot of guys getting really loose and taily going through that final corner, trying to get up onto the front straight. So if the cars are a little bit pointy like we're already seeing now, there's a big chance that we're going to have some big incidents later on as the guys trying to work their way through lap 1.
So James got on pole position. There's Corey Shepherd, 1/10 of a second behind. Damien Johnston lines up in 3rd. There's Adam Briggs, Jordan Ross, and Andrew Dyson. That's a very competitive front 4 rows of the grid with Freer and Talianchis just behind. Then it's Bowden, Smarts rounding out the top 10. Jamie McKnight lines up in 11th. And then it's Bailey Frid in 12th. Jacob Knight starts in 13th. Then it's Damon Stockton, Jamie Stovall, Blake Delaney, Bradley Bourne, Jet Bennett, Paul Warwick, Jamie Dyke, Marcy Hansen, Stephen Varga, Michael Whiting, David Kimmond, Craig Jones, Daniel Gray in 26th, Craig Anspach, Matthew Scholes, Hayden Harrison, and Sean Chappell rounding out the top 30. Behind that is Tyson McAvoy, Greg Sharp, Cameron Jones, Tony Gaffer, Matthew Brunt, Scott McCune, Chris Barnes, Michael Dumbrell, Stephen Martin, Harry Dodds, Mark Dial, and Carl Sloggett will be one of the admins for tonight. So you can see that the drivers are trending back almost the Suzuki Bridge back there. It's such a massive grid that we have for this one. Remember, 50 kilometers this first race, 17 laps, and then the finishing order of this race will set the starting order for race 2, and that's when the points are handed out. So it's still important that you finish well here, at least finish the race. The lights are on. And we are away racing for race 1 of the evening. It's a strong start for car number 1, James Scott. It's also a strong start for Johnston as well, who immediately moves up ahead of Shepherd, just trying to cover that inside line. Briggs also looking racy on the inside, but I think he just got held up a little bit by Johnston on the apex. Shepherd moving back ahead of Johnston. They're side by side going into the S's on this opening lap, and it is Johnston who does stay ahead, just had the better line. Scott already making a break for it. Bit of contact further back. I think that was Dyson getting a bit of a tap from Freer potentially, and now you can run side by side with this long right-hander as we cut most of the, or certainly a part of the circuit. 027 of like getting all out of shape, but very little movement so far. The only change in the top 12 is Johnston getting ahead of Shepherd, and also a little bit of movement on the bricks from Jacob Knight trying to gain some places. And 2 by 2 up the hill, and already we've got 1 lap in the books.
Yeah, really good start from everyone there. It looked like a little bit of an issue for Jeff Bennett. We saw him just off at turn 10 there. I think he's been able to rejoin, but well down the back of the field right now. So coming into the pits, that's not a great start for him there. But everyone else getting away exceptionally well. And now is where the fun starts for these guys. They're all in single file. Now they've got to work to make these moves and get through. But everyone else has really kept the nose very clean early on.
Real nice show. Of course, no points being handed out for this race one. Remember, it just sets the good for race two, so maybe the drivers are a little bit more careful, albeit I don't think they're leaving too much on the table. They're such a unique corner that they're not going to use necessarily all the track. And once the grip difference as well is a little bit of a change over that very unused part of tarmac. Meanwhile, it's 1.2 seconds for Scott, and we are rattling through these laps already. 55-second lap it was in qualifying, already into the 55s in this race as well. Johnston in second, Shepard third, Briggs in fourth, and Ross in fifth. But none of them really coming close to a move. I think if anything, it's going to be Taliancic, Bowden and Smart who are the closest in 8th, 9th and 10th. Purple first sector just now for Tom Freer, so he's just playing a nice first sector. Then just bits away from the others. But very few long straights around this configuration. It's probably going into the chicane, which is going to be your best chance. Is that a move just ahead for Dyson, maybe on Ross? He wasn't quite close enough for it. I don't know how much closer the boy one's going to have to be in order to make a move. He's all over the gearbox of the car ahead.
Stay tight through the final, second to last corner here as the guys work their way up on the front straight. He's got a good opportunity down into turn one, just moves the nose slightly across up through the hills. Probably going to be the preferred spot, especially up into that braking zone through 2 and 3 is where we see a lot of overtakes traditionally in these cars. Dyson just not quite close enough, so that exit just hurt him just a fraction there, but certainly trying to find a spot, and back just getting a little excited as they work their way back down the hill.
For Dyson again, but he's just too far back. The slipstream effects in this car is very small. He's almost gone for it there. Has to get stuck. Has to get stopped on a dime in order to not hit the car ahead. Meanwhile, Knight did move up to 13th on the opening lap. In fact, actually stayed in 13th. He's got a long queue of cars behind him. It looked like Stovall might be able to get past, but Stovall just falling into the clutches of Stockton now. Delaney off the circuit for Fishy Motorsports in the background, trying to keep tabs with these 4 cars ahead. Well, he's wide again, and that's going to be very bad news for Delaney. He's almost hit the wall.
It's an easy corner to do that. The track just sort of runs away from you uphill, and you've got sort of nowhere to turn once those front 2 wheels hit the grass.
Jamie Dyke perhaps making the exact same mistake again in a Fisher Motorsports car.
Yeah, just losing the nose on the turn in through 1 there. Is really close up to the back of one of the Valvoline sponsored cars there, so able to get back into the line and continues on, not too much of an issue. Cameron Jones having a look on the back there of Greg Sharp, trying to get a move done. He's in a good shot. These guys go up over the hill, and this could be a potential move. He's already gained 4 spots so far. He's got the Penrite car right ahead that he's trying to get through.
Here it goes. The inside into turn 1. Good line there from Sharp. Just managed to drive it in deep. However, you then have this turn 2, 3, which is so tricky multi-class racing in particular, but it's not easy in single cars as well, in single class. But the car of Jones staying ahead of Dyke. So that was a good overtake right there. Dyson up ahead of Ross now, and that's for 5th place. He has been knocking on the door for a while, has Jordan, as Andrew Dyson. And he's finally been able to get past the Singy Sim Racing car, and here it was, and it was into the chicane as one would expect.
Yeah, set it up nicely from a fairway back, gets a nice solid dive down the inside there, and gets the nose of the DPR car across the front. through quite comfortably. Ross, pretty smart there, just tucks in behind, so he's looking for an opportunity now to try and redress that situation.
If you'll cast your minds back a week, it was Andrew Dyson who was claiming his first podium in AOSC. So he knows what he wants now, and he knows he's got to stop further up the grid. That's exactly what he's setting his eyes on in race 2 tonight.
Yeah, him and Briggs starting potentially 4th and 5th for the second race can be dangerous from there. Scott still leading by 1.5 seconds. The difference between the 2 lap times on that time round. A little bit faster for Scott. In fact, they've all kind of dropped back into the 56s, so the time's getting a bit slower. They're lapping over half a second slower than they were earlier on in the race, just as the tyres start to fall out of their perfect window. Knights and Staples having a nice battle. 13th to 14th, that must be going through turn 1 as well, which is a bit risky. That is Stovall getting ahead of Stockton, but he's very slow, and they're allowing Jacob Knight just to pull away slightly.
Yeah, it's very similar to what we saw with the move on Greg Sharp only a couple of laps ago with Jones getting through on him. So once you get that slide job up through turn 2, it makes it very tricky for the guys behind to try and recover that drive and flow that they need to stay on the back of these cars. Looks like Stockton's been able to regain that now, just losing a little through 10A and B. A little bit of a wiggle there for Stovall on the exit, so you're going to have to be careful not to oversight that rear too much.
Looks like he's got the rear of that car very loose as it's wobbling through the final 12th corner on the circuit, and down goes to Stockton. Oh, bit of a serve there from Stovall on the way through. Thanks, mate. Won't have that.
Ooh, and then nearly coming across, and then they make contact, a bit of netcode between the two of them. Stockton and Bourne, and they're still going at it here. And he's making quite a few enemies, and they collide again, and they're almost meshing into one another. And they're both off the circuit, and they're both in the wall, and that was, well, not good driving, frankly. You hate to see it. I don't know why they were. I think it was Stockton, if anything, being the more aggressive of the two. I don't know why they were fighting so hard, and now the 100 as well with the early engine from Bradley Bourne, and that was just how silly, as you were saying.
Because effectively those cars are starting from the back for the next race because one of them didn't want to yield the position and save a result.
Yeah. Yeah, no points awarded in this first race, so collision like that, very unnecessary. Great promotes everyone else behind though, up a couple of places. It's now Whiting. He is holding back Gray. One of the higher running Fishing Motorsports drivers at the moment. The top running Fishing Motorsports driver is now Paul Work with a couple of offs that we saw for a couple of them earlier on in the race. Delaney and one other, of course. 6 places gained for Daniel Greggy, while the highest gainer so far. Cameron Jones up 9 places, a bit further back. But he's the highest gainer so far, running in 24th place.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to know what happened to Gray there. He's lost the rear wing on the back of the Mustang there, but not impacting his speed at all. As we see a couple of cars doing a little bit of dirt touring down into one, and that'll let Gray now through. So he's going to move up ahead of Whiting down into turn pretty comfortably. Delaney should have the ability to close up here as well for the other Fisher Motorsports car. Actually, just ahead of those two as well, Varga and Jones getting in and amongst it on the way down the S's as well. Both those cars with a big slide over the top of the hill.
Just could go for the dummy here, but he doesn't. Oh, that's showing Varga's not going to make that corner. Oh, he has, but he's well offline, and that'll be a satisfying move for James. Problem is, you go over the crest, and even if you do have a bit more momentum, you get some extra wheel spin. It kind of equalises your run, and that was good defence there from Varga, despite locking up big time into the chicane. He got away with it. Stays in 17th place, 1.7 seconds now to the cars ahead, and on that last lap, Whiting gaining on these guys considerably by, well, Whiting had a little bit of a poor lap as well, to be fair, that last time round. And they will be caught by Delaney and Co. That is Bruns being overtaken by Gaffer. 2 Holdens fighting it out. And they've got a couple more Holdens as well behind Barnes and Martin. As Briggs has got ahead of Shepherd, the 3rd position. And that one hasn't necessarily been coming, but he's been able to get it done anyway.
Yeah, not much separating those two, that gap just hovering on that 0.3 of a second. Shepherd will need to just reset and get back underway and hope it's got a little bit of time left. There's 4 laps still on the board here for him to try and redress that move. See how he goes there. Further back, Blunt still running a little bit wide through that corner. A little bit of a lock-up for the guys here to contend with on the way into 1. I don't think we had any cars go off through that section of the track.
Thanks to Scott Newton for finding this one. Oh, it was a massive mistake from Shepherd, and he's lucky not to be in the wall. I was saying how it wasn't really coming. I wasn't sure what the gap between the 2 of them was, but it was Shepherd who was chasing down Johnston and then dips a wheel onto the grass and drops outside the podium places.
Yeah, that could have been a huge lose there. Just able to gather it up in time and just keep it on the black stuff and not really cost himself too much time there. But he's surely going to have a bit of a worry there, hoping the car doesn't get away from him again. But that will surely be a good incentive there for Andrew Dyson now to try and close the gap up and maybe slot him behind his teammate.
Oh, Jones, massive slide. So this should give Daniel Gray the impression that Jones got a bit of a tail car up ahead, and he'll need to make some moves to move further up the grid on this one. Nice deep braking application and makes the corner. Oh, good defense there.
Just like that, Gray loses 2 places. Whiting gets him past, now Delaney, who's a little bit out of position. Oh, he slides across, and Delaney is lucky to still be in the race. I think he'll be able to get back on the inside there. Anspach trying to take advantage of this as well as Gray is off the track. And what a miserable time for Gray. He was doing well despite the damage, but he loses about 6 places in about half a lap, and this is a short lap. So just a few corners, and has caused his demise there. But just a bit too sideways there, maybe overheating the tyres. I think it's pretty warm out there. So, yeah, struggling for grip. Looks as though it's pretty much sorted in the top positions. No one really that close to a move. You've got Johnston and Briggs about half a second between one another. It's mainly in the midfield where most of the battles are occurring. There is Johnston. And to be fair, Briggs with an upturn of pace later part of this race. He was actually the fastest driver on circuit the last time round. Was Adam Briggs, 100th of a second faster than the race leader Johnston, with a good qualifying, with a good start up into 2nd place. But I have the feeling to say he's probably not second faster. I think probably Briggs, Shepherd, Dyson, maybe even Ross all have a pace advantage, and yet Johnston's had track position.
Yeah, I think Johnson's front tyres are really starting to give out. We just saw as they flowed through that little shortcut section of the track, the car was really understeering on the way through there. So struggling a little bit for front grip. That could be a good opportunity here for Briggs if he can close up and maybe look at an opportunity. It's a big run wide there for Corey Shepherd out in the weeds there, and certainly not giving up the fight for this one yet.
Oh, look at Briggs. He's absolutely all over the back of him. I thought it was over. And yet Johnston just seems to be offline. As you were saying before, Daniel, the cut through, he was taking a very alternative line. I thought initially that may have just been his driving line, but I think you're probably right. The fact that he was just washing out and already in traffic as well. As James Scott has just got a couple more corners to go. I think Briggs isn't going to get Johnston. I doubt he'll risk it. Considering that it's only after 1 position, no points available in that fight. You can see he's staying in line, but out in the lead, James Scott absolutely dominating. He took pole by 1/10 of a second, and he's going to win this race by nearly 4 seconds. And he does take pole position for race 2. No points for James Scott, but still a positive for him. Look at that sliding. Oh, this isn't the drifting championship, so I'm sure they'd win that competition. That's fantastic to see across the line. Further back, we've got Anspach and Kimmond and Jones. Oh, they're massively on the... they've all missed the corner, pretty much. If any of them have made it, then they would have overtaken the others. And yet they all just went in too deep. It'll be Anspach who holds on to 21st ahead of Kimmond. And Jones Gray finishes in a very disappointing 25th after running in the top 15 for much of the race. The other cars getting across. It won't take too long to see us all get across the checkered flag. Is there going to be a late move here? No, it's just a bit of a wide line there for Dodds. And he won't quite catch up. But I don't think I've ever commentated on a race with this format, Daniel. I've never commentated a race with this check configuration. But it was pretty good out there. Overtaking wasn't quite as easy as we see in the full layout, but that cut through corners is quite a challenge for the drivers.
Yeah, it was an interesting opportunity to see the guys how they were going to have the cars set up. Looks like a lot of people going with a very pointy setup. We saw a lot of rear wiggle from a lot of these cars. The guys maybe back it off just a touch. We're going to go back to the long format for the next server when that drops up. But interesting to see the way they all played it. Everyone got off the line exceptionally well, which was a little bit of a concern that we thought we might have seen a wreck here and there. But all in all, it was a really good first race.
Definitely. And we should be able to bring you your race results for this race 1 of the evening. James Scott wins out. There he is, for Logitech G out as esports. 3.8 seconds clear of the rest of the order. Jamie Johnston, a strong second place for him. He could be a little bit of a... he could be the cork in the bottle come race. So I'm not sure if Johnston's got the same pace as Joe's behind. But to be fair, he held on to second place, so I don't think he's that slow. But it did seem like Briggs had the advantage on him at least once the tyres started to wear down. Corey Shepherd with a strong 4th position. Then there's Andrew Dyson. Jordan Ross, Tom Frew had a very quiet race in 7th place, but still one of his better results this season. Michael Tajancic, Christian Smart, and Rob Bowden round out a top 10, which was pretty much the same top 10 as we started the race, which is great to see. Jamie McKnight finishes in 11th. There's Bailey Frid, Jacob Knight, Jamie Stowball, Marty Hansen under the radar. He came 6th place. It's a great result for him. Paul Rourke was in 16th. There's Stephen Varga, Craig Jones, Michael Whiting, Blake Delaney, Craig Anspach, David Kimmond. Cameron Jones gained 10 places, which I think was more than anyone else on the field. Nice job from the Century Motorsports driver. There's Matthew Scholes, Daniel Gray, who lost quite a few places near the end. Greg Sharp, Hayden Harrison, Tyson McAvoy, Jamie Dyke, Tony Gaffer, Chris Barnes, Matthew Brunt, Stephen Martin, Sean Chappell, Damon Stockton, Harry Dodds, Mark Dial, Jet Bennett, Scott McCune, Michael Dumbrell, and Bradley Vaughan. Rounding out the 41 cars. So that will be the grid then for race 2. We are going to load up into another server, as will the drivers, which will come up. But in fact, we're going to have an interview first with James Scott, our race winner. James, thanks for having a chat with us. Well done out there. That seemed quite easy for you.
Yeah, thanks, guys. It was really important to get a good lap in qualifying there. Obviously, it looked like it was going to be very hard to pass. I didn't really see too much passing happening on the standings, so I assume that was the case. I just was able to put my head down and do some quick laps, and was able to get a comfortable victory.
Definitely. In this race 2, are you going to be changing anything on your start? Because your start was quite perfect. Are you expecting to get an even better start in race 2? Because it looks pretty much as good as could be.
No, I think I'll just stick to my routine. I use sort of the same routine every race. I could maybe try to get a better one, but I think in this car, the more you try to get a better one, the finer the margin is to get a bad one. So I'll just stick with a safe start and see what happens.
And are you going to be changing the setup much for this second race, saying that we're running a slightly configuration?
I'll make a few little changes. Obviously, there's not that really long loaded corner on that short layout anymore. So I'll be able to make a few changes to suit the longer track. I've probably done a little bit more practice on the longer track and definitely done more laps in my career on the longer track. So it'll be interesting to see how we go.
Definitely. Well, best of luck for that. Dare I say we might chat to you later on. I mean, is there any quick shout outs that you'd like to give?
Obviously, a quick shout out to our sponsors, Logitech G, Astro Gaming, Cube Controls, Race Tech Seats, and Own 3D. And yeah, I might come back and have a chat with you guys later if everything goes to plan.
Awesome. See you then.
Thanks, guys.
James Scott there, your race 1 winner. I'll start on pole position for race 2. So, like I said, we're going to load up a new session, and we'll be back with you for an 80-kilometer race coming up in just a moment around the full Road Atlanta circuit. You do not want to miss it. We'll be back with you in about 5 or 10 minutes' time. See you then. Welcome back to the AOSC Super Series, live on the iRacing Esports Network and live on Apex Racing TV. Before we get back going, it's just a reminder that the iRacing Esports Network is shutting down a bit. Not sure if they're shutting the entire channel down. You might still be able to watch back some races, but certainly no live streams will be occurring on the iRacing Esports Network. So if you're watching on the iRacing Esports Network, please go to Apex Racing TV and go subscribe to Apex Racing TV, because that will be the way to watch the remaining rounds of the AOSC Super Series and also loads of other championships we broadcast. We broadcast about probably about 15 races a week. So certainly do subscribe there. And we've got GC Racing, single seat racing, oval racing now, lots of stuff. So do check that out, please. Once again, I'm Sam Fitzpatrick. Alongside me is Daniel Leeds and Matthew Norris. Scott Newton operates in the cameras, and we're just preparing for race 2 of the evening. We had a 17-lap race round the short Road Atlanta format for race 1. We are now going to have a 19-lap race around this extended layout. Do you think there'll be much of a pace difference, Daniel, between the drivers on the short layout compared to the long layout, or do you think it'll be much the same?
Well, we're looking at from some of the laps that the guys are setting at the moment. It's a little bit longer. It's about 1:20 for the full configuration in these cars, where we saw 55 seconds. So not a huge amount more time that the guys are going to spend in the lap, but we do have three more corners to contend with now, and a slight kink to get back underway. So we're not cutting that turn 5 and ending up on turn 9. We get all the fun of the circuit now.
Yeah, and it's a pretty good part of the track. It's certainly a distinguished kind of parts of the circuit. This circuit, where you kind of have the first sector, which is the sweeping left and right, lots of elevation change, and then you've got to be very careful through the extra bit, and then of course the final sector as well, really very much on edge where you can overtake those last couple of fast right-handers. We were speaking to James Scott just before about whether or not he'd kind of changed the setup. I don't think he explicitly said if he would or not, but he said that he did feel like he was a bit more confident on that alternative layout. Would you want to maybe, I don't know, stiffen up the car, or maybe even soften up the car a little bit, seeing that you have got a couple of slow corners, maybe take a little bit of wing out, seeing that you've got that longer straight, and maybe want to do some overtaking? Do you think any of these guys will be editing their sets much?
I think
I'm not. Sorry, Dan.
No, by all means, go ahead, Rick.
I was going to say, I'm not sure they would alter the setup too much. We went from the circuit which had pretty much no straights at all besides the main pit straight to a circuit which has two, 3 straights in it now. So you might take a little bit of ring off and sort of soften up the rear of the car or stiffen up the rear of the car for the slow speed stuff. But it's still the same front and back of the circuit we had before.
Yeah, and you still want to be mega quick through that first sector. That's really where the time is. But yeah, we'll see if there's much of a difference. This is the first time that we've really run this type of format. We did run this format at Alton Pub, but we ran the same layouts in both races. We ran the island layouts in both races. So this is a little bit unique for us, but it should be a lot of fun. So the grid is the same order as the finishing results of race 1. Remember, that was the point of race 1 pretty much. So James Scott starts on pole position, then it's Damien Johnston, Adam Briggs in 3rd position, then it's Corey Shepherd, Andrew Dyson, Jordan Ross, Tom Freer, Michael Tanianchich, Christian Smart, and Rob Bowden. That's the top 10. The rest of the order will go through for you because will soon be underway, and of course it's similar order to what the race 1 grid was, and of course it's the exact same as the race 1 results, so we've spoken through it enough. Remember, the same top 10 started race 1 as finished it, which is quite rare. We'll see if there's any changes to that maybe McKnight can get in amongst those top 10 positions. But it's James Scott on the pole position who nailed the start in race 1. This is where it counts today. This is where the points are handed out. And in 80 kilometers time, we will find out who is going to win this round 13 of the championship. We are back under green flag. Johnston with a little bit of a poor start. He was going to be under pressure from Briggs. Scott skating away. Oh, we got a spin in the background as well. Another car as well. unfortunately they haven't bounced back onto the circuit, but Scott leading the way. Johnston in second place. Briggs in third. We've got another collision, I think, down at turn 1. Briggs barging his way past Johnston, who's still trying to fight it, but it's Briggs up into second place, and once again that third place start working very well. Shepherd ahead of Dyson still. Very little changes in the top 10, but Varga up 4 places. Nice start for him as we don't go the alternative way, but it looked like Hansen was going the alternative way. He got a big old tap behind and spins off the track after a really fantastic race 1 for Hansen, gained a bunch of positions, and that is shame to see for race 2. Dyson's a little bit off the circuit. He's just dropped behind Bowden and Co. So poor start for one of the DPR machines, as one of the Fishy Motorsports cars of Warwick and Jones go alongside as we use this properly long back straight. A lot more overtaking going to be possible in this race 2 than we saw in race 1. Quite a divide at the moment between the drivers in about 8th position and the drivers in the mid-teens. Anspach still defending this one against Warwick. And he's been able to do that 3 wide behind in one of the Penbright cars, and that was barging through for Kieran. Well, he's not going to get many Christmas cards, is he? Because that was absolutely grating from him. That was Craig Sharp's, sorry. He was sliding through, barging everyone out of the way, but he's okay, a couple of places to come in.
Yeah, big stuff there from Sharp. We've got one of the tank cars around at the bottom of the circuit. That was Craig Anspach off into the weeds in turn 1 there. But that was the start we were kind of expecting in race 1 there. A lot of contact from a few of these guys. We've got 3 cars in the lane already. Corey Shepherd, Jacob Knight, Matthew Scholes in there. We saw Cameron Jones involved on the incident on the start-finish straight. He's been able to get his car back underway and going, but it's all sort of going off now as everyone now finds himself settling into a rhythm. And traditionally out front, James Scott already starting to build quite a handy gap, 1.6 seconds up the way. Briggs has now been able to catapult up into second position. He's gaining himself 0.2 of a second over Damian Johnston. Jordan Ross, Tom Freer not that far behind these guys though.
Oh, look at Johnston.
So if you remember the last race, you'll remember that Briggs took a little bit of time to come up to speed. Johnston straight across the front of Briggs there and really just making his motives clear. You'll see Briggs come on a lot stronger towards the middle part of this race, but remember there's also a mandatory tyre stop to come, so that could change some strategies.
That was all over the place. He's really drifting, and we're going to see another move. Great battling between these two. And it's Briggs back ahead of Johnston. Ross right in the mix now. Veer has had a good start. He's up a couple of places this Tom Bill, albeit under huge pressure from Talianchich and Smart. I'm sure Dyson will join that one later on as well after having a poor start, Dyson. Had some pretty battling out there. Unfortunately, it's 3 seconds now to James Scott, but I didn't really mind too much because the battle for second place is fantastic to watch at the moment. Here we go again. Briggs is going to go back down the inside into the right-hander. Apologies, that was Johnston trying to get past Briggs into the right-hander. He had to stay behind, and he just drops back a little bit, but again he will be in range. We don't see a whole lot of overtaking in supercars, but with this long straight into the big braking area, it really does open up opportunities. Of course, they can get the cutback coming out of the chicane as well. Johnston has another look, but Briggs just ushering his car to the middle of the circuit, and Freer catching up to these guys.
Further back down, Chris Jones involved in a bit of a scrap down in the mid-pack there. We've got Bradley Vaughan, Tony Gaffer just ahead. We'll move down the inside there for Vaughan, so getting through on Tony, and he'll get a nice run up over the top of the hill. Looking at the top 10 though, Synergy have really started to find something in these setups and these cars. We've said it over the last few races, they're really starting to come on strong. They find themselves in a really good position up in that top 10. Tony Edge doing a stellar job holding on to that top 6 position at the moment. Gained a couple of spots there at Dyson, now slipping further down the order. 3 spots dropped since the start of this race. He's going to have to be careful here because he's going to got Jamie Knight closing in on the back of him for United Sim Sports. Jamie will definitely looking to try and gain a spot or 2 here as he works his way through.
So a couple of the cars he had a poll start. Corey Shepherd. What happened to Shepherd? Did he come into the pit? So Shepherd came into the pit. Why did Shepherd come into the pit again? In fact, did they have to make a pit stop, the drivers? some ladies. But I don't believe they do. Certainly, to get to the end of the race, you would not think they would have to make a pit stop. But well, maybe that is what they are going to do. And that early stop for Shepherd on lap 1 of this race has sent him tumbling down already. So yeah, he's one of the drivers who've lost the most amount of places.
Mandatory tyre stop in this race then.
Aha, thank you. So why, that's an interesting strategy, isn't it, from Shepherd, to take tyres on the open lap? You'd think you'd want to, make it half and half, wouldn't you? And otherwise you're going to be quite vulnerable near the end of the race. But Shepherd going for that early stop, clearly trying to get out of traffic. I think theoretically he would be in second place right now, but with the battling that Briggs and Johnston have been having. But I'm not sure if that one's going to work for Shepherd. It's going to be surely upwards of half a second a lap slower by the end of the race.
I'm not sure if Corey's pit stop was 4 tyres, but it's good to see someone, if it is throwing the alternate strategy. But I think towards the end of last race, we saw Johnston's tyres starting to go off towards the lap 16, 17 portion. So it isn't surprising to see someone sort of pitting about 15 or 16 on this race.
The movement further down, Stovall and Warwick changing places a lot. And I think Warwick's lost another place. There he is. He starts at Varga now, and he's all over the place. He's trying to get the power down, and he's struggling. He loses 2 places there. Stovall 13th, Varga 14th. We'll get a replay of this one. Now it's all kicked off. Warwick trying to defend from Stovall. The pursuit car, that's the green car, green and black car on the left. And just home to turn out on the corner slightly, and then Warwick losing out to Varga as well. Driving the penalty for the 868. That's Varga. So he's just gained a place, but he'll have to quickly let it go.
Yeah, I wonder if that was through contact. It was on lap 2 there, and we saw quite a bit unfolding in those early couple of laps. So he'll need to come down and get that one served. That'll drop him from what was starting to be a really good position for him. He was already up into 14th just prior to that. So there'll be a change there. And Scratch, this is a look at the penalty that he's got. Actually, this should be the replay there. This guy's well down the order, getting involved in that. That was we saw actually Anspatch getting nerfed down into turn 1. So that's going to be a big penalty there for Varga to take, and he'll have to come down and trundle through the lane there as a result.
And because of no safety cars and no changing in tyres during a drive-through, that's really going to put a cruel to his night's efforts.
Must be really annoying when you work so hard in race 1, you get a good result in race 1, and you're driving well in race 2, and then you get sent down and you gain pretty much no points from the evening. That's the format of this event. And I think it's got potential. I think maybe a couple of tweaks for next season. I'm sure the organisers will add. But the first time that we've run this format is this season, and only the second time we've run it. But I think the fact that we can run 2 different configurations really does open up opportunities. Was that a blown engine for Vaughan? That was certainly smoke, yeah. And he's out. He's going to be out of the race. That was a downshift, I assume.
That is easy to do on that corner, especially with the speed you're approaching it. You carry quite a bit of inertia up the hill from the roller coaster, so it's not unheard of to blow the engine there, but it's uncharacteristic out of that car.
Really good reaction there from Gray not to get involved in that as he saw that car going off, and just a quick look at the replay on that. And actually, I think he went before he even got the downshift there, got into third, and around she went, but Gray with an awesome job to get around that, no issues.
I think the Oscar for Best Director goes to Scott Newton right there. There's not going to be any Oscars, I think, next year, but he would certainly win it if it was, because that was either incredible camera direction there, or just luck, the fact that we were riding on board just as that happened. He says purely deliberate there from Scott Newton. He is saying Bowden in 12th place at the moment, chasing down Jones still Freya doing well up in 5th position. This is, well, of course, Freya's a Synergy Sim Racing car, isn't he? He's not Pursuits anymore, so I was going to say, this is one of Pursuit's best meetings of the season. It is one of their best meetings of the season anyway, because Taliancic, I said in qualifying how he's doing very well. Very rarely qualifies in the top 10 Taliancic. In fact, I think that's the first time he's qualified in the top 10 all season. Usually he's down in 15th to 20th. It hasn't been a great season for Pursuit. But he's doing a very good job, and the former Pursuit driver of Freya are not too far ahead. And they've been able to drop Smarts and also been able to drop Dyson as well, who are both into the pits because we're pretty much at half-point distance. So theoretically, this is the fastest time to come into the pits as a disqualification for car number 100 or towing back to the pits.
So that just makes that night a bit worse for Bradley Vaughan.
To be fair to Vaughan, I think once you do tow, I don't think you're allowed back onto track. Maybe I'm getting confused between this and AMF. I don't think he did anything wrong. But yeah, he's not going to be let out on track, which is unlucky when you get a random engine blow as well.
Yeah, and that one will be due just to the no escape rule. There was no call back to race control, just monitoring that channel there. So it's a little bit of an insult to injury for that one. Unfortunately, people won't see him back out on circuit. Kidman doing a good job. He's got Taipan car of Hayden Harrison right behind. These guys work their way up through turn 8 here. And just snatching a little bit of an inside wheel there as they work their way up on the back straight. It's going to be a good opportunity though for Harrison, who closes right in on the back.
Don't fight too much, guys, because you're not fighting against one another, you're fighting against about 10 other cars who have all come into the pits already. But they're going to lose each other a bunch of time now. Who will come into the pits? If you're the 717 here, you can't really come into the pits. Or quarter panel. That was like a 5th panel there. And he is into the pits. Well, that was all unnecessary. I don't know why Gibbon was fighting that was so hard, seeing that he was going to come into the pits anyway. And they just dropped each other about 1.5 seconds unnecessarily there. We'll see if that costs him when he comes out of the pits. Currently the leader of the drivers who have come into the pits. Well, you know what? Where's Johnston in comparison to the other drivers who have already pitted? Corey Shepherd. Is Johnston ahead of Corey Shepherd? I think he is. And that is a little bit of a surprise, to be honest. Well, he's miles ahead of Shepherd, isn't he? He's miles ahead. So that early stop for Shepherd hasn't worked.
No, it didn't work too well. Shepherd's going to have to be careful there as well, because he's got Christian Smart, another one of the Synergy cars, right on the back wheel of the Pursuit car, or the Premier car, sorry, and so he's going to have to get a move on. So Johnston now with a little bit of a light flash, working through some lap down traffic. Actually, it's not lap traffic, that's Sean Chappell for Right Sim Racing just ahead. So that's the 10th position car out on circuit.
And if you're looking at that track map, it is congested as, so finding a clean spot to duck out of the traffic, grab those mandatory tyres, and then get back into the traffic is a bit of an art at this stage.
So has Briggs done enough on this in-lap in order to overcut Johnston, who was in a little bit of traffic, albeit I don't think he lost much time. Johnston will station for 10 seconds. Everyone's going to be stationed for the same amount of time. They're not taking any fuel. They're just taking some tyres. They might be taking some fuel, to be fair, but it will be the tyres which is the limiting factor. Johnston is still going to be ahead then of Briggs. Ooh, but it's pretty tight. Wasn't by a long way, about half a second. And also Ross, who is here alongside Chappell. So that Chappell still yet to pit, although they make contact. That's a bit unnecessary for Ross. And Chappell now might get in the way of Taliancic, and Taliancic can get past, which he does a pretty good job of. So not much of a change for those top positions. We've just got Freya and Scott to come into the pits, who were in 1st and 5th for the pit stops.
Remember that there was with Johnston, Taliancic there, so it'll be interesting to see where he comes out, being one of the midfield runners pitting late.
James Scott also now in the lane. I was going to say too, for Johnston, that was actually a good move for him with some good out lap pace there. As you see Jones with a little bit of a half slide there on Rob Bowden. But Johnson actually getting ahead of Briggs over the course of that pit stop cycle as well. So regaining position there, and Tom Freya also in for his stop now. So 1 and 2 back in the lane. That will hand over to Paul Warwick. he should be able to potentially get around and lead a lap tonight as well.
Showing for a bit of drift heading into the back straight there as Stovall's trying to find some positions.
Is Freya ahead of Ross? No, Ross is just ahead of Freya. And Freya comes out in 6th place, so really no changes whatsoever. The undercut with the fresh tyres wasn't very powerful, and staying out of traffic wasn't very powerful either. Look at Saneancic, he wasn't far back. He's still not far back, 0.2 of a second behind. His tyres might be a little bit better on this first lap, but once you get to the second lap, the fresh tyres really do get into their peak performance. Here comes Saneancic though. This one might get a little bit personal between former teammates. As a glance down the inside, that's not going to happen. Though, moving into this one, though. No, he's waiting till the back straight. There's a good chance for Saneancic.
Just keep an eye on the background there as well, because you've got Christian Smart just ranging up on the back of Saneancic as well. So he's a little bit of a meat in the sandwich of the Synergy bun here. He's going to sound to be Kelsh's, but he's got a nice toe down off the back straight. It's a good opportunity for him down into 10A. Swings the car a little wide, but I think Freya will just let him slide through, try and use the turning to get going again, but a little bit of a rub between both of them. Smart's going to get a good opportunity to maybe gain 1 or 2 spots here on the exit.
Freya might be out of the team, might be out of the Christmas card list after that.
Warwick finally into the pits. I think he'll probably lose quite a bit, but I think he has a good strategy to stay out, kept out of traffic on the most part. Scott back into the lead, and the order you're seeing on your screen is reflected because everyone has come into the pits now who was still due. Warwick actually in 17th place. That is pretty good for Warwick, although he actually did start in 16th, so hasn't worked out brilliantly. He will be quite fast at the end of the race though. Saneancic pulling away from Freya. I thought Freya would be really good on this second lap. It seemed like the second lap on the tyres, second and third laps were really strong on the fresh tyres. Maybe that's what Saneancic is experiencing now, but I thought Freya after that first lap would be nice and quick, but Saneancic after that moves sprinted away, and he's looking good for 5th position, by far his best result of the season.
Further, Greg Sharp, Michael Whiting having a scrap here for 15th position. It's been a good run for Greg so far, up 11 spots from where he started with the sports car. He's going to have a bit of work ahead of him here, trying to keep Michael Whiting behind. And Whiting will have a good look down into turn 10 for the dive. Down the inside, it runs a little wide. It should be a good opportunity to get through, just not quite close enough on the brakes there. It has to settle to stay in that position. A little bit of a lock up there for Greg on the entrance. So just being pushed a bit here. These two should look to continue this battle on for another few laps. They're just dropping off the back of Craig Jones and James Stovall, who you can see in the bottom shot there as well. So a bit of work for those guys to do if they want to catch up to that battle ahead.
Battle on screen now is Bailey Frid and Rob Bowden. Frid taking a bit of advantage away from Bowden, not having closed up with the fantastic looking tank SRT car.
Also looks like we've got a car stationary on the track as well, down in 37. I think that's Matthew Scholl for Riot Sim Racing, very slow on the back straight as well, so the race leader's going to have to contend with that car out there too.
That was just, by the way, between the 77 and the 696. Now, Stockton and Gray. Hansen, though, is between the two of them. So I think Stockton is going to have to let past the two of them. So watch out for this one. This is painful. It must be absolutely terrible when you are let past two cars, because one of them overtook the other. But well, that's sometimes the case when you cause to go off the circuit, as it seems as though Stockton did do. So you'll let past Hansen here. You had an awful start, remember, Hansen. He was like off the track, I think, before the race even started. On the first straight, and he's been able to do really well actually since then to catch back up. Still, though, Stockton is ahead of Hansen, but yeah, he's got to let him go, I think. Apology, yeah, I think he does, yeah. So 7 of Gray needs to let past. Oh, contact
Yeah,
between the two of them.
Yeah, you are correct there, Sam. There is a redress for Stockton to let the 77 of Grave forward, but yeah, he's not going to make friends doing it that way with only Hanson getting a bit outside his rear quarter panel.
But it's worked for him because he's been able to push Hansen down the order, which now means that he doesn't have to let Hansen pass. He's just got to let Gray pass. So I don't know if that was his master plan all along. I can't believe he's way of doing it, and he was risking having a collision there. Meanwhile, Dyson, he's got ahead of Freya. In fact, Freya's lost 2 places. He might lose another to Shepard now. There he goes. And the inside into the final corner. And that's a terrible few corners for Freya. He was up in 5th place, remember, got overtaken by Italiancic, and he's had a nightmare of a lap. Let's see how it happened. So Smart's already got past him there. And then this is Dyson getting past us as well.
Yeah, a little bit of a rub from the 41 going through on Dyson, so he makes the move quite easily. And then you see Shepard down the inside, and Knight now in a good opportunity here to try and get through as well. This is another back pass for Smart, getting past on the teammate as well. That's what happened, just up into turn 2, a little bit of a brake tap just to let him through on his way there.
Something's gone wrong for Freya to be handing those positions away so easily.
He's got McKnight and Bowden now behind. And there, Bowden's quite a bit behind, isn't he? So, yeah, probably just McKnight then he's got to worry about. But still, I mean, top 10 for Veer, still not too bad. But we'll be disappointed how the second half of this race has gone. Out in the lead. Jeez, we've only got 3 more laps to go. It's absolutely raced by. It is a short race, to be fair. About half the length of our normal sprint races. But, well, it's been very dominant for James Scott still. 6 seconds ahead of Damien Johnston. Adam Briggs in 3rd position. That's Ross, Tony Enchich. Smart. Briggs was really close to Johnston for a bit after the pit stops. He did pit 1 lap later, did Briggs, but he hasn't been able to make much of an impression since then. Meanwhile, Stovall, alongside Jones, these two have been locked together for most of the race. They overtook one another on the first lap, and that is Stovall either defending or overtaking, I'm not quite sure which one, against Jones, but that was in style. Jones all over the place. I'm sure that's not the end of the battle, though.
I'd love to know the type of setup James has got going on in that car, because every time we've looked at it tonight, it's been sideways in one way or another.
This is a chain. It is fantastic to see some of the best images that you can get in motorsports. Racing around the circuit. I mean, you have Eau Rouge as well, I think, which is up there. I think Circuit of the Americas as well, to be fair, it's got some pretty cool shots of the elevation change, but the S's around this circuit it takes quite chumps them all. Because let's see the slalom for this snake of cars is awesome to watch. At the head of this chain is Damien Stockton. It's Gray, Anspach, Hansen, Barnes, who we're riding on board with, and he's going to try to get past Hansen here. He was looking like he was going to get past Gray. Apologies, the redress had already happened, so I was talking gibberish earlier about the redresses. Barnes is going to lose out to Varga. That's how quickly it can change. One moment you're on the attack, you get put offline, and then you're having to defend side by side through the final corner. And it's still alongside. 74 is going to have the high ground into turn 1. So we move on to the penultimate lap of the race, and yeah, he does just hold on.
Nice move there to get back ahead for Barnes. Gafford trying to get involved in this one as well, just behind Stephen Varga there. So potential change. Those guys have already just fallen away a little bit after that run into turn 1 there, so that was pretty costly there for Stephen Varga. He's going to be cautious for the remainder of this lap. Further up, Craig Jones has now lost the spot to Craig Sharp as well, so it was no longer Sharp and Whiting are still battling. Those guys are working their way through, so not sure whether Jones has had a little bit of a moment there, because he was right on the back of James Stovall only a lap or 2 ago. It's going to be a tough one for him to try to finish. Big move coming for Jones down into turn 10.
Locks the rear, slides the car in there. Just to put a
that
full
slow
stop
down?
on that point. The off track might be. It looks like McKnight's got past Freer as well, so just putting a full stop on that point.
I wonder if Freer's run out of fuel because he's dropped back. Also, is that car spinning in the pits? Might be, I think, Craig Jones. I think Craig Jones came into the pits, but I think he's crashed on pit entry. Maybe we'll get a replay of that after the race. But we're watching the race leader complete the final few corners. Well, it was pointed out on the YouTube chat how you can drop this round anyway. If he doesn't win, then he'll just drop it. You can't actually score any 4 points. It's been a dominant season for James Scott, but he's going to keep up Logitech G Outs' esports 100% winning record this season. He rounds the final corner at Road Atlanta, and he wins both races. Meanwhile, Johnston versus Briggs. Johnston is going to be able to beat Briggs. He passed him on the last lap. What was going on between those two? That really came out of nowhere. There was about half a second between them. It's mega close. Between Dyson, Smarts and Shepherd, and Dyson holds on and gets some bonus points as well with a nice slide across the line. Shepherd behind him. McKnight looks strong near the end, and Fear holds on to 10th, but he must have had an issue out there, Fear. It's still going on still. Look at this. Weizenberg's Sharp. They made contact. Sharp will hit the wall. Oh, and they're off the circuit in the background as well. Warwick couldn't get him though. And I wonder if Warwick going off the circuit on the last corner didn't help him, even though I think he thought it would do. But he couldn't quite catch up to the driver. He was dead and in the barriers. Right at the end, we've got a few replays to catch of that final lap, certainly. As the rest coming was like Gaffer and Chapel pretty close to one another. And then we've just got Scott McCune as well. But no, that was a really good race. It's nice to have the battles out in the lead. Meanwhile, James Scott was absolutely dominating at that. But elsewhere on the field, I think that was some of the best fights we've seen all season long.
Absolutely, I think the sort of race that we've seen over the past few races, or at least at the end of the races, they've been alive and they've been sort of coming forward with great battle packs. And everyone tonight, I feel, got a bit of airtime because they're all doing something really interesting and fighting with each other. So it was great.
Yes, definitely. I wonder if Scott Newton could line up that last lap overtake for second place, but maybe just before we go and see that, we go through the final order. In fact, we might be able to see the battle from the starts of the final lap between Johnston and Briggs. Because that was an ambitious move from Johnston to be able to make the overtake right on the last lap. So here it was. In fact, it's this. So this is just the penultimate lap, and then we'll see it through the final lap. But you can see there's quite a difference between them. I wonder, guys, if maybe Johnston has a fuel issue similar to what Freer seemed to have out there and dropped down right at the end.
Yeah, if Jossie had a bit of a shaggy final corner there to start that lap off, so dropped a couple of wheels there and losing a little bit of time. Briggs mega through the top section of the circuit, just trying to close it up there. So he's setting himself up pretty nicely down through the S's here.
Yeah, so Johnson had already got past Briggs. Anyway, but they certainly went alongside, I believe, on the last lap of the race. I think it was just good pace for Briggs. Manages to close up. Johnson a little bit wide. And then throughout the race, we saw this draft effect down the backstraight. Really very useful. Scott off in the distance. You see the battling cars as well, right in the background as well. Briggs catching. Went to the inside. You would think would be the advantage. Johnston managed to stay around the outside, muscle his way back on the inside. Briggs shut the door, but Johnston was having none of it. They make contact again, and a very good final lap battle between the two of them. Johnston, though, getting the advantage. We can now bring you through your final results. I think for this round 13 of the championship, Race 1 didn't award any points for this. Race 2 is where the points are handed out, and it is James Scott with one of the biggest winning margins of the season. 8 seconds clear of Damien Johnson. Then it was Adam Briggs in third place. Jordan Ross with a good fourth position for CNG Sim Racing. Then it was Michael Talienich with his best result of the season in fifth. Andrew Dyson was in sixth. Then it was Christian Smarts with a really good result. He had the pace all night long, did the 999. Corey Shepherd, Jamie McKnight and Tom Freer rounding out the top 10. Then it was Rob Bowden, Bailey Frid, Jamie Stovald, Michael Whiting, Craig Sharp, Paul Warwick, Jet Bennett and David Kirrand. In 18th place, behind that was Hayden Harrison, Jamie Dyke, Tyson McAvoy, Damon Stockton, Daniel Gray, Craig Anspach, Marty Hansen, Chris Barnes, Stephen Varga, Tony Gaffer, Sean Chappell and Stephen Martin rounding out the top 30. Then it was Cameron Jones, Matthew Brunt, Michael Dumbrell, Craig James, Scott McKeon, Mark Dial, Harry Dodds, Matthew Scholes, Bradley Vaughan and Jacob Knight. And also Blake Delaney was in 41st position. Shame for Delaney, had an off in race 1 and then had an issue in race 2 right at the start. We've already had a chat with our race 1 winner. Well, I think we're gonna have another chat with him here. Yes, he's standing by. James Scott joins us in the commentary box for another chat. The 99th time he's been in the commentary box for this season, because James, you've kept up your team's 100% winning record this season. It is your 12th race win out of 13 races. I mean, if you include the race ones at Alton Park and here, of course, it gets even better. Just like race 1, that seemed quite simple. Whilst everyone else was battling behind, you managed to make a break for it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I saw, I think it was Damien didn't quite get the best jump off the line. I got another pretty good start. And I think they were like 2 or 3 wide into turn 1, so it was a bit gnarly going back there. But yeah, I just put my head down while those guys were scrapping it out and was able to pull a comfortable gap and was just able to back the pace off a little bit through the race and yeah, just bring it home.
It was pretty hot out there today, 39 degrees track temperature. Was that affecting you a lot, or kind of have you just got used to Road Atlanta being a hot circuit so you have no other comparison?
Yeah, I think pretty much every time we come here it's quite hot. I can't really remember any time where it hasn't been hot. So yeah, I think I'm just, whenever I come here, it's pretty much what I expect. So be a surprise if we got a cold track.
Yeah, it'd be great though. Through the S's, that'd be lovely to race. We've got 3 more rounds of the championship to go. Is there a little bit of frustration, the fact that you're not going to be able to go for the 16 out of 16? Because I mean, if you had won that race at Phillip Island, which wasn't your fault, the fact that you lost it, really, it was a collision with a back marker, of course, you would be massive favourite to make it 16 out of 16. Is that a small frustration, or are you not are you not a stats man?
No, I'm not really a stats man. It is annoying that I didn't get the win, but saying that, Brady was able to pick up the win there, so no harm in that really. And for the team, it's been a really good season. We're working well together. Obviously Brady's been bit non-existent in the series for the last couple of weeks, but just because he's got other commitments on. But he'll be back, and yeah, hopefully we can continue the winning streak in the last couple of rounds.
Definitely. Well, best of luck for that one, James. Is there anyone you'd like to give another shout out to?
Obviously all the guys at Altus Esports, we're working really good as a team, and I think the results are really showing. And obviously all our great sponsors, Logitech G, Astro Gaming, Cube Controls, Own 3D, Racetech Seats, and you guys for putting on a great broadcast, and the AOSC admin.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, James, and best of luck for the Enduro next time out.
Thanks, guys.
James Scott there, your 12-time race winner. 14 if you include the race ones, which I'm sure is a record. we don't need to look in the record books. But he's not going to be able to make it at 100%, but could be 100% or Logitech G Outers Esports, which would be kind of just as impressive. We've got one other driver in for a chat with us, and that is Damien Johnston, and he is standing by with Daniel.
Thanks, and Damien, congratulations on a fantastic drive tonight. 2 races, 2 podium positions in second place. Looked like the car was a little bit tricky for you in race 1, but you've smarted up quite nicely in race 2, and yourself and Adam Briggs had a fantastic run there to conclude the night.
Yeah, that's exactly right. The first race, the set was going off pretty bad, and we've actually made a setup change for the second race, so sort of a bit of unknown going into the first corner, but come off it all right at the end there. So
fantastic. Talk us through that race 1, because it was a little bit different to what we're used to seeing out on that circuit there. The short configuration of the track, a little bit weird, going right at the bottom of the hill there. That's where it looked like the car was struggling just a bit towards the end there with the understeer. Was that something you set up with the car, trying to get more speed out of it, being it was a shorter race?
Yeah, we tried, but it just, it was way too much. So after about 10 laps, it was just pushing pretty much all the way up the hill. So just kept the foot in it and tried to stay in front, and it worked out just. So pretty lucky to not.
Absolutely. And then in race 2, you finished off again that great battle between yourself and Adam Briggs. I think you 2 very evenly matched out on circuit. It looked like going into the round of pit stops, he was marginally ahead of you. Had a slightly longer pit stop for yourself, but your outlap absolutely fantastic. Managed to get yourself back ahead. And then to finish off the race, we saw on the replay there the fight down into turn 10 and 10A. Did you think you had enough on him just to try and keep the car around the outside, knowing there was potential for a little bit of contact on the exit?
Yeah, it was pretty tight. So I was just saying I knew he was going up there, so I just had to get the drive out of the final corner there, and it sort of worked out. So I was pretty stoked to get 2 P2s tonight for Synergy.
Absolutely, and coming on exceptionally strong since the recent change to Synergy from the former team. Next week, off to a 650 for at Sebring. How do you like the circuit there, and how do you think the supercars are going to track around that circuit?
I think we'll be all right. I think we've got some pretty good base sets coming along, and hopefully Geordie Cine can come back for that one. But yeah, we're actually looking forward to Sebring. We should all be pretty strong.
Fantastic, mate. Well, look, again, congratulations on the results tonight to second place for yourself and Synergy. Before we let you go, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out and a thanks to?
Yeah, big shout out this week to Christian Smart and Laurie in Adelaide. They actually sent me some new pedals, so I've got some new gear. And then obviously Synergy and all the boys there were really putting in the hard work, and hopefully we can get that P1 one day. And you guys and the admin for AOSC, thank you.
Outstanding, mate. Again, congratulations on a fantastic result tonight. Hope to see you back on the podium next week at Sebring.
Thanks, guys.
Unfortunately, Adam Briggs hasn't come for a chat with us. We don't bite, not that bad. But I feel bad knowing that you haven't been able to have an interview. But I will kind of put this question to at least Imola coming back for next week. Sebring coming back for next week. We've got Imola later on. That's a properly unique saga. I mean, I'm not a massive fan of it, personally. I'm as someone who lacks talent, the bumps, put that into question. It is a tricky circuit, though, I think, for pretty much everyone, especially over the course of a long race. Not a whole lot of run-up area across Sunset Bend can be a real trouble spot, but I'm pleased that that's an endurance round. I mean, lots of endurance history with the 12 hours, of course, year after year at Sebring. Going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it will be a lot of fun. It is a horrible circuit. Did I say that on the public record? Yes, I did. It's not fun, but if anyone's done the 12 hours of Sebring, you know that once you get into a rhythm at that place, it does become quite a nice, challenging circuit over the course of an endurance race. So thankfully, we get to go there next week and put on a 650. We'll get our drivers teaming up again, so that'll be interesting. and hopefully we should have some good racing there. Admittedly, it's not a great circuit, but it should be fun.
Do you like it, Daniel?
I love it. I think it's a fantastic set. I think it's going to really be awesome racing. I can't believe it. Don't even know you anymore. No, wow.
Well, we're kind of balanced in the country box at least. But no, that'll be next time. I mean, whether we like driving or not, we're not driving it, so it doesn't really matter. We know that it's a good race circuit at least, so that will be a lot of fun. That will be actually, is that on the Esports Network next week? It will be on the Esports Network next week, and that'll be the last race actually that we broadcast on the Esports Network, at least from this series. So probably don't watch it on Esports. Like, go subscribe to Apex Racing TV, because remember, the Esports Network is shutting down. You won't be able to watch these AOSC Super Series this season or next season when it starts back up. You won't be able to watch that on the iRacing Esports Network. You're going to have to watch it on Apex Racing TV instead. So go subscribe to Apex Racing TV, and then you can catch that series along with all our other series. Lots and lots of different championships. So certainly do check that one out. Also, please check out our social media as well on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. If you've enjoyed this video, leave a like on it. We super appreciate it. Also, quick shout out to our sponsors, of course, who I nearly didn't give a shout out to. Akuta for their height and safety rigging equipment. They've got so much stuff on their website, so certainly do check out Akita, and they also do a lot of support for this series and also Aussie Mix and Fix. So certainly do support them as well if you're looking to get any products in that area. Big thanks to Akita for their support of their various series. Jinx Shifters. Making Aussie-made shifters and also brake bias and ARB adjusters, some real nice kits for you to upgrade your rig with. Race Circuit Arts Australia, making CNC race circuits which you can hang on your wall. A lot of Australian circuits available and also worldwide circuits as well. Wolf Graphics, making Aussie-made stickers. Sixth Gear Imagery, doing submitting imagery, of course, and you can check out their action shots from this Founder Championship on the AOSC Facebook page. Too Easy Finance and Parramatta Isuzu Ute and also West End Mazda, all Sydney car dealers led by Jane McKnight. So if you're looking to buy a car in the Sydney area, certainly do check out them. Thanks to all the sponsors for helping out this race, and also thanks to Race Management Service as well, because they're quite important in a race like this to make this format work. So thanks to Race Management Service as well. We will see you next time out for the 650 at Sebring, the final team. Well, it's not the final team event of the season, but one of the last team events of the season, the penultimate one, the third to last round of the championship as well. We'll see if Logitech Giasa's Esports can keep up their 100% winning record. But for me, Sam Fitzpatrick, from Daniel Leet, from Matthew Norris, and from Scott Newton, we are going to say goodbye, and we will see you next time.